Hello and welcome to Evolution Collect Training. In this video tutorial, we will be going over how to notate accounts. Now, if you haven't already, please make sure you watch the previous video about how to navigate the accounts prior to watching this. In this video, we're going to go over how to notate accounts properly, how to make sure you're leaving notations correctly. Let's go over a sample account. We have Mr. Tesla over here. Now, let's say I'm calling this account for the first time. How you want to go about notating accounts, the best way I can tell you is always notate the account, keeping in mind that the next person who's going to see this account will not know anything about the account. So let's get started. I'm calling the home number. So the first thing I want to do is as soon as I'm dialing the home number, I want to just, as soon as I realize, let's say I was not able to reach Mr. Tesla at his home number, I'm going to go hover over this number and I'll put no answer. So that'll notate the account for you. I'll just say you called this number, you were not able to answer. Now let's say you had called, you called a cell phone number. All right. So let's say you called the cell phone and you reached the phone number that had his voicemail on it. It identified the consumer. So what you want to do is, but you weren't able to reach the consumer. So you left a voicemail. So you're going to go to left voicemail, good ID. Okay. And when you mark a phone number as good ID, it's also going to turn that number green. So next person viewing this account will know immediately that this is the phone number that it's the best number to reach Mr. Tesla. All right. In this case, let's say instead of leaving a voicemail, you had successfully reached this consumer. What you want to do is, again, before any other kind of notes, you always want to go over where you reached them. So I'll put in notes. Uh, so the next person viewing this account will know that I reached the consumer at this cell phone number. And then let's say Mr. Tesla has fallen on some hard times, and he is unemployed and unable to make any kind of payment. Or let's say he's unable to pay the balance in full. Now, let's say I went ahead and I told him, he doesn't have to pay the balance in full today. I can go ahead and set him up on, let's say his balance is 150. I'll let him make 3 payments of 150. So if he's not able to make the entire sum at one time, I'm going to go over, just say, so it basically tells us the duration of the agreement, the amount of each duration, and then we have Mr. Tesla's consent. And what we also want to have in there, we also want to have what kind of fees he agreed to. So I want to say X agreed to. I usually use just X to refer to the consumer. You can, some people say consumer, some people say debtor, what have you. He agreed to a $9.95 processing fee. So if Mr. Tesla calls back and say why is his payment $59.95 and not just $50 even, we know by the notes that he had consented for the $9.95 processing fee. So now we also know that payments Mr. Tesla has agreed to run payments on the 15th of every month until the balance is paid in full. So this way we already know that it's going to be the 15th of this month, 15th of next month, 15th of the third month, and that'll go ahead and satisfy the account. And next thing you want to hit is save. And what it will also do is it'll notate the date and the time in which you entered this note in. So that way, let's say in a week's time, Mr. Tesla calls back, he reaches another consumer. That consumer will know exactly, what was talked about in this phone call, what Mr. Tesla agreed to, and that he is made aware of the fee, he is made aware of the dates that are running. So this would be ideal notes right here. Now several things you always want to have in notes. If you ever reach anyone, even if let's say I talk to Mr. Tesla's spouse, I want to notate who I talked to. I want to notate what phone I reached that person in, and then I want to notate what kind of action was taken. Let's say if I'd reached the spouse told me to call back call back tomorrow, or call back the day after, call back in an hour. We want to always notate the account with what was said, what was going on. And after that, if you let's say if they're a bad number, yeah, you'll notate that the unidentified uh, unidentified female, unidentified male, basically said that this is a bad number to reach them, and we'd go ahead and if this was a bad number, we'd go ahead and hover over it and just hit bad, and that'll remove the number. So again, the main goal here is to make it easier for your fellow collectors and for yourself too in the future. Let's say if this person is calling back after the first month, during the second month payment, in a month's time, you're not going to remember what had transpired. So it's in your best interest, it's in the company's best interest, it's in your fellow employees' best interest that you notate concisely and clearly. So now that we have these notes down, let's go to the next account. All right, so we have Asimov over here. So in this case, we want to go ahead and, again, we want to go through the same thing. In this case, let's say we talk to the consumer at home number. Let's just say home number was also all fives. All right, so we talk to the consumer at his phone number. Say So in this case, let's go ahead and say that Mr. Asimov does not remember taking this loan out. And let's say Mr. Asimov is very old, he does not have an email, and he wants a letter. So before you ever request a letter or an email or fax, make sure you always verify the information, the relevant information. In this case, if he wanted an email, I would go ahead and verify what kind of email he wanted, verify where he wanted the email at, what his email address was. In this case, let's say Mr. Asimov is really old-fashioned. He likes getting things in the mail. But make sure you just don't say, okay, we'll send you a letter. You always make sure that you verify the address. So let's say this was his former address. He's moved to a new location. Let's just say he moved down the street. So he moved to a new address. Make sure you update the address. And it wouldn't hurt to put that in the notes too. Updated. Updated new address. So now we know that we have the correct address, and any kind of address change or phone number change will also be notated in the account. So we know that this address was changed recently. So we have changed the address, and now we have it's ready to go out and get sent out. Now, next thing is in both this case and the prior. In this case, if Mr. Tesla has agreed to the payment arrangement, I would go ahead and change this to, let's say he had agreed to pay with a credit card. I would make sure to change it to Visa, and I would make sure to change it to ACH if he had paid using a check. And let's say he has made a check payment. The second thing, and this is absolutely critical if you want to get credit for it, is make sure you switch the account into your desk. So in this case, I'm logged in a high priority. So if if I'd successfully talked to this person, gotten the payment, I need to make sure I transfer this account to my desk. If it's not in my desk, I'm not going to get credit for it. So as a collector, that obviously this is money in your wallet. So make sure you change the account to your desk after securing a payment. The next account, so I mean, we've reached Mr. Asimov successfully, but you know, he doesn't remember that he's a little, let's say he's elderly. He doesn't remember taking this out. He wants that letter. We've updated the address, and I know I talked to him at Res, so I would mark that as a good number, and I would also switch this over to GDN. So this way, we sometimes have, you know, when we set up queues for people, we'll set up on GDN queues. So it's important if an account has a good number on file that you label that correctly as well. So now, let's say we requested the letter. In 2 weeks' time, someone else calls this consumer, and he says the same thing. Oh, send me another letter. Well, in that case, because of the notes you have put in already, because of the address change, we already know that the letter was sent out. So this way we can avoid, wasting our collector's time, wasting, valuable time on the phone, wasting company time. If the person is not, if they're just playing games, if they're not really intending to pay. In 2 weeks' time, if I call Mr. Asimov again, he requests the same thing, he requests an address right in front of me. By looking at the notes, I can go ahead and, let the consumer know, Mr. Asimov, you had requested this letter. We had sent it out 2 weeks ago. You have not responded from the letter. So this way we can again, the whole point of notating accounts properly is to just make the best use of your time, and thereby making it your time more valuable for the company. So now that we have a little idea of what kind of information we want in the notes, let's move on to notating notating along with email addresses and address change. So let's say I've talked to Mr. Gray. He's he's a little younger. And basically, he never gets old, so he's a little younger, and he has a email address that he wants. So we can go ahead and have that email sent out. Okay, so we have that here. You know what? I'm actually going to go and send this email. So let me go ahead and just put in. All right. Okay, so I've put in our company's email address, but again, let's say for example this was his email. Now let's say Mr. Gray, he doesn't want to pay this $200. He's claiming it was only $100 he took out, and it has reached 200 because of interest. So I talked to Mr. Gray. I convince him, let's meet halfway in the middle. And again, let's have a good email and a good phone number on file that we reached them at. And always, as soon as you make contact with the consumer, label correctly which phone number you reached them at. So in this case, I will say reached X at out2. Needs settlement, needs set offer email. So Mr. Okay, so Mr. Gray here, he has agreed to make a payment of $150 for a settlement, but he needs an email before he's going to do it. So needs set offer for email. Again, I want to also be as detailed about the settlement as possible. We'll make Okay, so we have this information here, and I also actually want to notate if he has agreed to fees. So I should have had that in the previous notes, but agreed to. So I also want to put in as much information as possible, so next time I call him, I know exactly what method of payment he'll be using, exactly what fee will be assessed. So now we can go ahead and send out this email. Now this user is not an admin user, so I can't show you how to send out this email. But once you have requested, you will have a separate sheet to request emails on. But once you have requested this email and an email does get sent out, a PDF link will appear in the notes. A PDF link will appear in the notes, which you'll be able to click on, and that'll open the exact email that's sent to him. So you'll have the email in front of you that was sent to the consumer. So that's an added advantage because we always put due dates on the email. So Mr. Gray, he doesn't have this offer valid till forever. He has to pay within the due date time, and with that, he'll be able to satisfy this account. Now, last thing I also want to do before leaving is I want to put negotiate settlement, and in this case, you know what? Let's do. In this case, since it's 150 and not a percent, we didn't go as a percent. It should be 75%, but we'll just go directly into financial information, and I'll just put in 150 right there. Okay, all right. So, and then if you hit refresh on the account, so we have the settlement available here. All right, let's move on. Okay. Now, again, there may be certain other information about notating this account that may come in handy. Let's say Mr. Hyde, we don't have any kind of phone numbers for Mr. Hyde. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is, let's say we had skip traced the information and we'd gotten a couple of phone numbers on file. What we sometimes do is we'll take all the skip trace phone numbers and put it into the hot notes. So that way, we're not. One advantage of that is that a lot of times skip trace phone numbers, they'll not be good numbers. So it may not make sense to put them all directly into these fields because they will get called by our dialer. So in this case, what you can do is transfer them over to what are called hot notes. This little notepad, this little yellow notepad right here. And then let's say I call the first number and it's no good. So I can just go ahead and remove that. I call the second number, it is good. So anytime you have a good number, always make sure you transfer it to one of these fields. All right, so and we have a good number. So I'll put skip traced new number for X. And verified good number with spouse. Asked we call back in 1 hour. Okay, so now I'm going to go over how to set up reminders in this case. Now we've skip traced a new number, and it's obviously a good number, so we're going to go ahead and change this to GDN. Now again, you never want to be switching accounts to your desk if they're GDNs, because you have no idea if Mr. Hyde here has an intention of making a payment. If he doesn't, what have you. So for now, all we know is this is a good number to reach the consumer. We're going to leave it in GDN. Now the previous one, let's go back, Mr. Gray. Now Mr. Gray looks like he's actually wanting to pay. He's just waiting on that email. So in this case, I would have actually changed it to my desk, and I would have changed it to hot. Because again, the consumer has agreed to pay this back, and he's just it's basically a much higher likelihood that he's going to make a payment. So I want to protect that account. So I'm going to change it to hot. And in this case, I haven't talked to the actual consumer yet. I've only talked to the spouse, so I don't know if he's going to make the payment or not. So they said to call back in 1 hour, and the consumer will be available. So, in this case, let's say in an hour from now, I'm working through other accounts. I'm not able to remember, myself if I'm supposed to call this person or not. So the easiest way to do this is enter a reminder. Let's see, it's 1:38 right now. So let's say 1 hour. Let's make it just 2:45. It's increments of 15 minutes, so just round it to the nearest 15 minute. So we'll do today's date. 2:45. Spouse requested callback. All right, so I've successfully put in a reminder, and as you can see visually, it's very easy to tell the difference between notes the system has put in. It'll be black here. The color will be black here, and it'll just say system. Now the comments section is basically only comments that we have entered, that we have manually entered. Those will appear in red, and then reminders will appear in blue. And let's say, I mean, in this case, this is only five different notations on here so far. But let's say, I talked to Mr. Hyde back and forth. We had been talking to each other for a long time, for several weeks, back and forth, and there's just a ton of notes on here. Visually, I may not want to be seeing all of those. So let's say maybe I just want to see only the comments that I've put in. So I just go to comments, and it'll narrow down just the comments that you have manually entered. Same with reminders. Or let's say Mr. Hyde here, he's saying the email we sent him 3 weeks ago, he doesn't agree with that. So we can either scroll down to the relevant email, or we can just go to email. And if we had sent the email, it would be on here. And it also stores the views. So it looks like several people have viewed this already, and it tells when they had viewed it. All right. So what will happen now that you have successfully put in a callback reminder is at 2:45, a little alarm. If you see this little alarm, a little window will pop up, and it'll tell you it's time to call Mr. Hyde back. Now, as you can see, some of these are a little older, but in this case, the reminder is not going to go away until you hit dismiss. So let's say it's 2:45, you're a little busy, you don't want to, you're on another phone call. You can leave it there as long as you don't hit dismiss. It's not going to go anywhere. So you can come back to it. All right. And next thing uh, next thing I did want to go over is what's appropriate to put in the notes and what's not appropriate. Now let's say Mr. Jekyll over here, he's calling me all kind of vulgarities, he's swearing at me. So again, I want to notate that it's a good number to reach him. Again, we don't want to deviate from that format. So it's a good number to reach him. Talk to um, so let's say he has no interest in making payments on this. And let's say he just starts swearing at you. So started swearing. Now again, you don't want to, whatever may have transpired, whatever the consumer has said. Again, you have to try to keep it professional. You can't. I don't want to see any kind of swears in the notes. You shouldn't be quoting them word for word here. So again, just notate what transpired on the account, and then just that's it. I would just end with has no intention of paying. And I'll save it. And again, it's a GD. We have a good number on file, so I'll make it GDN. But one thing you do want to keep in mind. Let's say 5, 6 other collectors have talked to this person. They have the same experience. He's swearing at them. He has no intention of paying. You just want to go ahead and at that point, it may be worthwhile to just change it to all efforts. Just because at that point, at a certain point, we don't want to be wasting our time on someone who's obviously not wanting to pay. So. Okay. And again, emails, addresses, verify that with the consumer before you go ahead and request any kind of email or letter be sent. Um, and I think that's pretty much all I want to go over right now with notation. Again, try to be as detailed as possible. The circumstances will come up that I can't account for every single instance or circumstance that you might run into that you have to notate, but just go by the rule of thumb. If another person was seeing this account for the first time, would they be able to read your notes, and would they be able to tell what transpired on the previous phone call? So just go by that. Just go by that and try to be as detailed as possible. And other than that, I look forward to showing you our next tutorial. Have a good one.